This stuff here in Yerushalmi Shekalim, the article Oath edition one daf kaf ches amraf right at the top. Lo Amar Ken Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yossi Bechanina, which in the Vilna Yerushalmi is on Tes Ayin base, and the Vilna Bavli Yerushalmi is on Yudam base. It is towards the bottom, 4 lines to the bottom. Looking at Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yossi. So, in order to understand what's going on, we have to look back at the end of yesterday's Amid Chav Zayin base in the article where the Rabbi Yehuda ben Grogros, or either Grogros or either Good Godios, or all sorts of interesting versions said the Shulchan Minar Mizbachos and Parochos and Akiv is a korban, according to Meir. And Chachamim said no, Ein Cham Akiv is a korban, a kior can be by the thing which is necessary. Korban is according to the version of the Gemara itself is the kior and the can, the kior and its base. According to the Gra Osgir, it's the Karkov and Karen, the structures which are built into the Mizbeach itself. Okay, so we had those the Machlekes Sheir Meir and Chachamim. What's Ma'akim? But when it says Lo Markein Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yossi Chanina, this is Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yossi Chanina did not say this. Tavein Omrim, they said that. Well, what's Ma'akim b'korban? Kol hein d'chsiv nochach. Anytime it says the word nochach, and it says nochach kigom b'mnera d'chsiv. That's not titen nochach hashulchan or titen. It's in parentheses because it's not actually in the pasuk. So every time it says nochach, and the whole pasuk is from Shmos Chavav Lamed. Something so shulchan michutz parochos. That's the nochach hashulchan outside Mishkan Teimora b'shulchan titen. Anytime it says nochach, it's ma'akev. Tzela in a ma'akev. It says the word tzela, it's not ma'akev because it says the menorah says nochach shulchan v'al tzela Mishkan Teimona. Right, it says the Mishkan to the south, so the that is by the Shulchan, right? So it says that the menorah says Nochach Shulchan. The pasuk again says Nochach Shulchan. About the Shulchan itself, it says. About Shulchan Titain al Tzela Tzafon, right? So the Tzela in a Makib, the Shulchan, when it says al Tzela Tzafon, that's not Makib. So you're going to a fascinating distinction here, that to have a Shulchan is not an imperative in order to do a korban, to have a menorah is imperative in order to do a korban. That is one opinion. V'am Rabbi Shimon bar Nachman Shei Rabbi Yonasan, afilu Tzela Makib. No, even that which says Tzela is Ma'akev, so therefore also the Shulchan is Ma'akev. Rabbi Ila b'shem Rabbi Shimon bar Nachman v'afilu Sima Ma'akeves. It's amazing the article does not bring in the Torah showing this pasuk, but the Korban Meir brings it down. Filu Ma'akev going Aron v'Paroches u'Mizbachos. The Aron and the Paroches and the Mizbachos is where it says Vayosem are Ma'akvim. Okay, so all of this has Korban Meir. It's a kasha mehad amir Rabbanan. It's difficult on all these opinions. For now, which Rabbanan said, as we quoted before, Shemakev ela kior v'kem bilbav. It says only the kior and its base are makev, or according to Groz Girsa, only the Kharkov and the Karen makev. What do you do with all these? Tanaim seem to say either it's Nochach's makev, or it's Tzel's makev, or Sima's makev. So Omar Bechina said, "Kam b'avodah shebifnim, kam b'avodah shebechutz." For the avodah shebifnim, all these things are mentioned, which are internal parts of the Beis Hamikdash, they're ma'akev. But avodah shebechutz, only either kior and ken, which is bachutz, or certainly the carvings on the outer mizbech, which are bachutz, only they're ma'akev. What goes on bifnim is not ma'akev. What goes on bachutz. Now, kind of a side point here, but an important point. The Korban Eidah and Takchatim both include the Aron. Article says because in Shmos Mem Gimel Perek Mem Pasuk it says Tam Tosham Es Aron Haidus, but that not Loshem Vayosem. All the other ones it says Vayosem. Vayosem Sonora, Vayosem Bachar Zohav, Vayosem Masach, and I guess actually other variations. Vayosem Bachar or some Vayosem Sakior, Vayosem Shulchan. So there that was it's on footnote 7. All those psukim, but by the Oren says v'samta, and the problem is that if you say that because v'samta is ma'akev, or is ma'akev, there's no Oren by Sheni. So must the Oren is not ma'akev the kashas of the korbanos. So the first of all, it's only to about avodah shebifnim. That's the maskonos sugya, right? It's not to avodah shebechutz. It's not ma'akev any event. But but there's a Meshech Chochma who says that that's the Chazal. And one opinion is that the Aron is nignaz b'mkomo. That there was, I believe that Meshech Chochma says because the Aron is not b'mkomo. Am Yisrael is also b'tashmish amita. So we have to say that that's why the opinion holds that nignaz b'mkomo is important, because that means that even though it's below earth, it's nignaz underground, but the underground in the Kodesh Kodashim is as if it's placed on top. And also, I believe the Rogachover says that that's important also for the Avodah Yom Kippur, which has to take place in the place where the Aron was, right? So therefore, it has to be what I should say, where the place where the Aron is. So therefore, it's important that the Aron be underneath the ground. In the Big Day Shishim Basar, I discussed this. So the point is that you can say, like the Korban Eidah, that the Aron is ma'akev, and it's the fact that it's underground in the spot directly below the Kodesh Kodashim where it would have been, had it been above ground. It works, and that made it effective for the Avodah Shebifnim to be effective as well. The Offer Yerushalmi brings down that the Tal Torah says that the Evan Shasia works. That's in lieu of the Aron, but I think that the Meshech Chochma is much more glad. Okay, now we're going back to the ramp of the Parah Aduma. So Amrai Bechina said, Shachtzis Gedola. It's a great pride. It's a negative description. The kind of like bordering on arrogance. I said Nekonim Gedolim was in amongst the children of the Kohen Gedolim, meaning the people of the Kohen Gedolim, like Bnei Kohen Gedolim, the households of the Kohen Gedolim. Could be we don't ascribe it to the Kohen Gadol himself. Right, but the households of Kohen Gadol, their followers, the retinue, they had this shachtzanus. They used to spend a tremendous amount of money. They had an edifice complex, as we say. There was more than 60 talents of gold. They would spend in the construction of this ramp, which obviously was in that case very, very elaborate. And he says here that Hayu Motzimba. No, sorry. Says Motzimba. Hayakivsa Para Omeid, and even I think there's probably a slight change of gears to do here. And even if the ramp was still left from the previous Paraduma, nevertheless. None of them would use the ramps of their predecessors. Ella Soso, they would destroy them, and build from their own. Slightly different gears in the Reb Chaim and the other, I think the Vilna. It's it's obviously what we were saying. He would destroy it and build and rebuild it. So Rabbi Ula is very much. But Tani, Shimon Tzadik, Shtei Paros Osa. Well, you can't call this Shachtzanus. Shimon Tzadik, he made 2 paradumas. Evidently, at the beginning of the base of they rebuilt the base of Mikdash and Shiva Sion. They probably needed a lot of paraduma ashes, so people were tummy. So I guess they needed to do 2. So the V'lo b'kever shoti yizeh, hoti yizeh. They didn't use the same ramp for both. Islach l'meimar Shimon HaTzadik shichei tzoya. Can you say he was a Baal Gaiva? He was arrogant? He was one of the great tzaddikim of our history. So Gemara says, Maikadun. So what's the conclusion? In other words, why did he do it? So Hashem Mailu B'Para Silsul B'Para. As I said before, there was the elaborate precautions taken to do the Paraduma B'Tara, except for the last process they used to do with the Tfuyom. So here too, this is part of the elaborate procedures they did in order to highlight how much they're makbid on the Torah. Okay, the so that was part and parcel of the seal Milo Bapara, advantage of Bapara that they do. So Silsul Para, Silsul is like something which is like a more respectable, pompous even display in order to show how much they're makbid on the Torah. Okay, so I guess making a new one seems like we're so makbid on the Torah that we're making a new one. That's the Pashut shot. I think because the Torah issue, the Reb Chaim makes it even partial, part more partial. He just says, "Ma'alu parakavu v'chibu mitzvah shichlu hakebus." Not because it's a Torah aspect, but rather just the chibu of mitzvah. The Marav Fulda in the Madura Common Marav Fulda is one who says, no, but also Madura Basra. He's one who says it was on account of the Tumatar issue. The Orphan Yerushalmi brings down a nice amount of Malka, brings down the Chazm Sefer, you're there, Simon Reish Chaf, who proves from here that any time a person sells something or breaks it down, something which exists, in order to build a new one in his own name, it's Osir and it's a Gasus Ruach. And therefore the Tzibur should prevent the people from doing it. I guess if it's a B'chibu Mitzvah, then it would be different. Okay. Tani, we learned there were protrusions and walls from the Kevesh Para that which were like kind of barriers. So in order the Kohen should not look and become tummy. So a lot of different interpretations here. The Tag Chad says, the people bringing the Torah should not be looked. I guess the things which profane them by looking at them, because obviously there's no true Tum and Torah by looking at something. So but it's being it's Hesed Das in a negative way for the people who are supposed to be focused on Paraduma. And the Korban Eda says that the other Kohanim should not come and stand next to the ramp and touch the people doing the Paraduma and be matame them. So they're not the Kohanim on the ramp looking out around, but the Kohanim below the ramp stretching out and touching them. The Pnei Moshe says, which is very similar to the one on Sukkah. They used to put them on, the kids who would go draw the water, used to put them on flat boards across the back of oxen in order to make sure they don't to make an oil on Tumah. So the same thing over here. It says the same thing, that they shouldn't be matam. The Kohanim who are on the ramp should not look over the side of the ramp and come to become tamei in Tumas HaTahom. Okay, so that's many different pshatim here. Okay, now we're going back to our Mishnah, where our Mishnah said that they were not that Shmuel said that you could make money off of hekdesh. He said, we had it. No? Yeah. So Chavon based on the article. So it was Moshe Shor Lishka Meyosim Lochem Yonash Shmonos Uslosas Baschar LeHekdesh. They would sell wine and oil and flour, and the profit go to hekdesh. Let's see, Shmuel Kilmer ain't mistak mishal hekdesh. They don't make money off hekdesh, and aflo mishal niyim, also not from the niyim. So he says the Gemara here says on this point that elim ratzi hefsed shlo b'aschar hekdesh mutter. The thing we should Pnei Moshe. Maybe, Pnei Moshe, I think. It says, Elim Rotza, time of Masitz Rabbi Akiva, The reason rational Mishkor Rabbi Akiva, Shem Mistak, we don't make money. Shum Shekach Yosef Seganke also sustain loss. People ain't lochim lastly starting if they don't take in order to make money either. Elim Ratza Gizbar Gabai Shalanim. If a Gizbar or if for the base Hamikdash or a Gabai of Anim wants Shem Yehefse Yeshlo to take the potential loss upon himself, Vim Yaschal Hektish, he wanted this reward for Hektish, Mutter it would be permissible. Okay, and we have a story like this. So, actually, there would this doesn't work out with the Einanias Malcolm Mashiach's shot so well. And the article of Yerushalmi discussed that issue that the Bali says because of Einanias Malcolm Mashiach's, and here it sounds like it's because of the potential loss. And then it says perhaps there's a different shot here, and I see that Yerushalmi discusses it to some length. Perhaps based on Mikdash Einanias Malcolm Mashiach's and Aniyim is because the potential loss. Anyway, it could be that both reasons apply, and we're only talking about one reason here. It could be it's Einanias Malcolm Mashiach's because there's a potential loss. The question is whether you can they have to say the Bali Yerushalmi argue or not necessarily. But even and when it says in most they have said Shalo Vaschal Hektish Mutar, the gives the way the Korban Moshe learning both by Hektish and by the Mominanim. They wanted the people in charge want to take the chance, allowed to take their chance. And we bring evidence, at least in the case of Yisraelim, could be Bar Zamina. The Mibar, some people take out the Mibar over here, just because of Bar Zamina, which makes sense. Most people didn't take it out. So started with Bar Zamina, that said, who was a Ispakin Gabay made of the Yisraelim. There was left by him a treasury of Yisraelim. Asked him for money, and he came out some money. Can I invest it? So Amalei, so he said, in boys they have Seder Didach. If you want the loss to be coming to you, Va'agra, the Tarvechon, and the if there's no loss, you're gonna eat the loss. If there's a profit, then you can split the profit. Sorry, that's permissible. Rabbi Chia bar Abba Ispaki Gabe made of the Asmin, and Rabbi Chia bar Abba had a treasury of his son, which was left by him. Vavake. And he did this. He accepted that would be a loss upon him. If there's a profit, they'll split the profit, and that was acceptable. So that's not talking about hektish. We say taka any smoke mashiros. You can do this at all, but by aniyim you can because there's no issue of that sort. Okay, the Gemara says later on in the Mishnah we had, and we discussed it. We promised we'd come back to this in Kov Ches and base. That it says that. Most of our payers locate to Mizbech. Right? The leftover payers go to the case of Mizbech. So what are the most payers? We'll find out. We get the Kov Chesam base. So what I said is Kul Rabbi Shmuel. It's really all going to Rabbi Shmuel. And most payers, which is the money which based on Mikdash works by its doing business in wine and oil and making revach. So this revach was called Mosar Peiros. And this goes to whatever, but the is left over from this Mosar Peiros, right, which is the same thing as the Mosar Nesachim. It was left over, so then they can. Is this something the Mosar Nesachim? I said that, and I realized maybe that's not true. No, Mosar Shara Lishka. So yeah, so the Mosar Shara Lishka and Mosar Peiros are the same thing. Okay, that's to say that that is the and that's what he says, that you can use it for Ketzim Mizbech. It's not clear why it's called Mosar Peiros, but it seems I think it's what Reb Chaim is saying, that it's called Mosar Peiros because the Yeno Shmanim and Slosses, which they would purchase with the leftover of the Shara Lishka, they were Peiros, they're produce, so therefore this is called Mosar Peiros. Okay, that's so. And by the way, in the Vilna, there's a header here. It says actually before it says Kul Rabbi Shmuel, it says Mosa Peros. What's the language here? Mosa Peros of Chule. And then it says, instead of saying the Kul Rabbi Shmuel, it says in the Gersa in the Reb Chaim, which I assume is the Gersa in the Vilna as well, is Masnisa the Rabbi Yishmael yeah, it has Kul Rabbi Shmuel. In parentheses, it says Masnisa Rabbi Shmuel. Okay. And Rechiber Yosef learned similarly. Rechiber Yosef plus Masnisa Moisa Peros Chayla Hekdesh. That's what we're just talking about. Right, what Shmuel says, that's most of the Shorei Lishka, and most of the Nesachim. But later the Mishnah talks about most of the Nesachim. Zeus Seravius, that's the fourth Sa'ah. So the Takan Chatin says, I'm going to comment Pirkin, like it says later on in the Perek. Hamakabel of Sapik Solos Mabrasim Misa, somebody who set up himself to give 4 Sa'ah of flour for a Salab, Amdu Sholosh. And now they you only get 3 saw for Selah. He still has to give 4. Isapik Arba. Mash Mistaker Hekdesh Soravis, and that which Hekdesh made the value of the 4th saw, Nikar Moshe Nesachim, that's called the excess of Nesachim. So Hekdesh in essence got 25% more for its the market price. So and they're charging the people who buy the flour the market price. So therefore, the extra 25% is a profit which Hekdesh has made. Right? As again, being there were 4 saw in the seller. Later on, the price become more expensive. Only 3 saw to sell. The suppliers still have to supply 4 saw per seller. But the Hekdesh, when they sell to the people for usage, they sell 3 saw per saw. So they have an extra schar of 25%. So that's the Mosa Nesachim, which we have in our Mishnah. And the Mosa Nesachim, we said, goes to Klisharis, to buy the Klisharis. Okay? So that's one opinion. That was Rabbi Chibra. But Yechim Pasam Asdisa Mosa Peros, Zu Sorvius. The Mosa Peros, that's the excess for the Peros, is the Sorvius, this case. So that's Mosa Nesachim. What's the Mosa Nesachim? So he says that's the Birutzim. So the Hekdesh would be Makabel heaping piles of Nesachim. It would be over the rim, over the top. But they'd sell it at flush, not over the rim, just flush amounts. So therefore, that extra, which they could sell again, they can make a profit. That's called Mosa Nesachim. Okay, Berutzim means the heaping on top. So as more of Leisa, Berutzim, it's a good shot. Chiyes doesn't hold this concept Berutzim. So Rabbi Chizkri said, yeah, no, he does. Ma'nava Sarvis, number the Berutzim. He says the Sarvis and Berutzim are similar advantages for Hekdesh, that they have excess profit as a result of either the discrepancy in price or because of the heaps, and the same thing. It goes to the Klisharis. They have the same parameters. We understand, according to Rabbi Yosef, that the Moser Peros is the Hekdesh making business, right? So then, whatever's left over, so then, and selling it, so then it makes sense to say that then Rabbi Akiva can argue, Rabbi Akiva and Chachamim, and say, no, we don't agree. Ein mistakrin, lo mishal Hekdesh, lo mishanim. Therefore, they were not moida, that there's this concept of Mosa Peros, which goes to for Ketzim Mizbech. The one said there's no. They didn't mention this concept Mosa Peros, right? So they say because they didn't. We know they didn't agree there was such a thing because there's no schar for Hekdesh. They don't such a thing. But Rabbi Yochanan, it's difficult because according to him, Mosa Peros is something else altogether. Mosa Peros is the Soravias, and that certainly was there. They certainly did. It certainly happened. The price fluctuations. So kasha, right? It's a difficult. How can you say there was no such thing? We know that this is a common occurrence. Right? You have to think Payos. Why are they not moed by Payos? It's a common occurrence, and it certainly was this excess money. What are you going to do with it? I have money with Klisharitz. They're moed by most of the song going to Klisharitz, but they're not moed by Payos. So, okay, well, it's a good question. The world's going to resolve it, but it's already in Chof Tesam Lav, and it's as I said yesterday, a longish type, relatively long for Shekalim. So we'll stop here and come back to the answer tomorrow.